Everyone loves to listen to a good book, and there are so many wonderful ones to choose, so we decided to bring you this podcast of Stories Come to Life. Each episode features a story from either classic or modern literature, especially chosen to be interesting and exciting to hear. So sit back, relax, and listen to this story come to life. Welcome to Stories Come to Life. I am your host, Kathryn Lopez Luker, and this is episode 13. As we have just finished a book, this episode will be a refreshing poetic interlude before we begin the next story. So many times, the words of poetry come back to us during difficult or happy or emotional times in our lives. Here is a selection of some poems you may remember from childhood or from discoveries later in life. So sit back, relax, and listen to these poems come to life. The Eagle by Alfred Lord Tennyson. He clasps the crag with crooked hands, close to the sun in lonely lands. Ringed with the azure world he stands. The wrinkled sea beneath him crawls. He watches from his mountain walls, and like a thunderbolt he falls. Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sound's the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. The Purist by Ogden Nash. I give you now Professor Twist, a conscientious scientist. Trustees exclaimed, "He never bungles," and sent him off to distant jungles. Camped on a tropic riverside, one day he missed his loving bride. She had, the guide informed him later, been eaten by an alligator. Professor Twist could not but smile. "You mean," he said, "a crocodile." I, Too by Langston Hughes. I, too, sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow I'll sit at the table when company comes. Nobody'll dare say to me, "Eat in the kitchen," then. Besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I, too, am America. This is Just to Say by William Carlos Williams. This is just to say, I have eaten the plums that were in the icebox, and which you were probably saving for breakfast. Forgive me, they were delicious, so sweet and so cold. Rudolph is Tired of the City by Gwendolyn Brooks. These buildings are too close to me. I'd like to push away. I'd like to live in the country and spread my arms all day. I'd like to spread my breath out, too, as farmers' sons and daughters do. I'd tend the cows and chickens. I'd do the other chores. And then all the hours left I'd go a-spreading out of doors. My Heart Leaps Up by William Wordsworth. My heart leaps up when I behold a rainbow in the sky. So was it when my life began. So is it now I am a man. So be it when I shall grow old, or let me die. The child is father of the man, and I could wish my days to be bound each to each by natural piety. A Tragic Story by William Makepeace Thackeray. There lived a sage in days of yore, and he a handsome pigtail wore, but wondered much and sorrowed more because it hung behind him. He mused upon this curious case and swore he'd change the pigtail's place and have it hanging at his face, not dangling there behind him. Says he, "The mystery I've found, I'll turn me round." He turned him round, but still it hung behind him. Then round and out and in, all day the puzzled sage did spin. In vain, it mattered not a pin. The pigtail hung behind him, and right and left and round about and up and down and in and out. He turned, but still the pigtail stout hung steadily behind him. And though his efforts never slack, and though he twist and twirl and tack, alas, still faithful to his back, the pigtail hangs behind him. The Bat by Theodore Roethke. By day the bat is cousin to the mouse. He likes the attic of an aging house. His fingers make a hat about his head. His pulse beat is so slow we think him dead. He loops in crazy figures half the night among the trees that face the corner light. But when he brushes up against a screen, we are afraid of what our eyes have seen, for something is amiss or out of place when mice with wings can wear a human face. To a Butterfly by William Wordsworth. I've watched you now a full half-hour, self-poised upon that yellow flower, and, little butterfly, indeed, I know not if you sleep or feed. How motionless! Not frozen seas more motionless. And then what joy awaits you when the breeze has found you out among the trees, and calls you forth again. The Land of Nod by Robert Louis Stevenson. From breakfast on through all the day at home among my friends I stay. But every night I go abroad, afar into the land of Nod. All by myself I have to go, with none to tell me what to do. All alone beside the streams and up the mountainsides of dreams. The strangest things are there for me, both things to eat and things to see, and many frightening sights abroad till morning in the land of Nod. Try as I like to find the way, I never can get back by day, nor can remember plain and clear the curious music that I hear. The Mountain and the Squirrel by Ralph Waldo Emerson. The mountain and the squirrel had a quarrel, and the former called the latter Little Prig. Bun replied, "You are doubtless very big, but all sorts of things and weather must be taken in together to make up a year and a sphere, and I think it no disgrace to occupy my place. If I'm not so large as you are not so small as I, and not half so spry. I'll not deny you make a very pretty squirrel track. Talents differ. All is well and wisely put. If I cannot carry forests on my back, neither can you crack a nut." When You Are Old by W.B. Yeats. When you are old and gray and full of sleep, and nodding by the fire, take down this book and slowly read, and dream of the soft look your eyes once had, and of their shadows deep. How many loved your moments of glad grace, and loved your beauty with love false or true. But one man loved the pilgrim soul in you, and loved the sorrows of your changing face, and bending down beside the glowing bars, murmur a little sadly how love fled, and paced upon the mountains overhead, and hid his face amid a crowd of stars. The Old Men Admiring Themselves in the Water by W.B. Yeats. I heard the old men say, "Everything alters, and one by one we drop away. They had hands like claws, and their knees were twisted like old thorn trees by the waters. I heard the old, old men say, "All that's beautiful drifts away, like the waters." The Little Turtle by Rachel Lindsay. There was a little turtle. He lived in a box. He swam in a puddle. He climbed on the rocks. He snapped at a mosquito. He snapped at a flea. He snapped at a minnow, and he snapped at me. He caught the mosquito. He caught the flea. He caught the minnow. But he didn't catch me. Pirate Story by Robert Louis Stevenson. 3 of us afloat in the meadow by the swing, 3 of us aboard in the basket on the lee. Winds are in the air, they are blowing in the spring, and waves are on the meadow like the waves there are at sea. Where shall we adventure today that we're afloat, wary of the weather and steering by a star? Shall it be to Africa, a steering of the boat? To Providence or Babylon, or off to Malabar? Hi, but here's a squadron a-rowing on the sea. Cattle on the meadow, a-charging with a roar. Quick, and we'll escape them. They're as mad as they can be. The wicket is the harbor, and the garden is the shore. Look, Edwin, by Edna St. Vincent Millay. Look, Edwin, do you see that boy talking to that other boy? No, over there by those 2 men. Wait, don't look now. Now look again. No, not the one in navy blue. That's the one he's talking to. Sure you see him? Striped pants? Well, he was born in Paris, France. The Twins by Henry S. Lee. In form and feature, face and limb, I grew so like my brother that folks got taking me for him, and each for one another. It puzzled all our kith and kin, it reached an awful pitch. For one of us was born a twin, yet not a soul knew which. One day, to make the matter worse, before our names were fixed, as we were being washed by nurse, we got completely mixed. And thus you see by fate's decree, or rather nurse's whim, my brother John got christened me, and I got christened him. This fatal likeness even dogged my footsteps when at school, and I was always getting flogged, for John turned out a fool. I put this question hopelessly to everyone I knew. What would you do if you were me, to prove that you were you? Our close resemblance turned the tide of my domestic life, for somehow my intended bride became my brother's wife. In short, year after year the same absurd mistake went on, and when I died, the neighbors came and buried Brother John. I Saw a Peacock, written in the 16th century by an unknown poet. I saw a peacock with a fiery tail. I saw a blazing comet drop down hail. I saw a cloud wrapped with ivy round. I saw an oak creep on along the ground. I saw a pismire swallow up a whale. I saw the sea brim full of ale. I saw a Venice glass 5 fathoms deep. I saw a well full of men's tears that weep. I saw red eyes, all of a flaming fire. I saw a house bigger than the moon and higher. I saw the sun at 12 o'clock at night. I saw the man that saw this wondrous sight. Humility by Robert Herrick. Humble we must be, if to heaven we go. High is the roof there, but the gate is low. The Destruction of Sennacherib by George Gordon, Lord Byron. The Assyrian came down like the wolf on the fold, and his cohorts were gleaming in purple and gold. and the sheen of their spears was like stars on the sea, when the blue wave rolls nightly on deep Galilee. Like the leaves of the forest when summer is green, that host with their banners at sunset were seen. Like the leaves of the forest when autumn hath blown, that host on the morrow lay withered and strown. For the angel of death spread his wings on the blast and breathed in the face of the foe as he passed, and the eyes of the sleepers waxed deadly and chill, and their hearts but once heaved and forever grew still. And there lay the steed with his nostril all wide, but through it there rolled not the breath of his pride, and the foam of his gasping lay white on the turf, and cold as the spray of the rock-beating surf. And there lay the rider, distorted and pale, with the dew on his brow, and the rust on his mail. And the tents were all silent, the banners alone, the lances unlifted, the trumpet unblown. And the widows of Asher are loud in their wail, and the idols are broken in the temple of Baal, and the might of the Gentile, unsmote by the sword, hath melted like snow in the glance of the Lord. In Just by E. Cummings. In just spring, when the world is mud-luscious, the little lame balloon man whistles far and wee, and Eddie and Bill come running from marbles and piracies, and at spring, when the world is puddle-wonderful, the queer old balloon man whistles far and wee, and Betty and Isabel come dancing from hopscotch and jump rope, and at spring, and the goat-footed balloon man whistles far and wee. Every Time I Climb a Tree by David McCord. Every time I climb a tree, every time I climb a tree, every time I climb a tree I scrape a leg or skin a knee, and every time I climb a tree I find some ants or dodge a bee, and get the ants all over me. And every time I climb a tree, "Where have you been?" they say to me. But don't they know that I am free every time I climb a tree? I like it best to spot a nest that has an egg, or maybe 3, and then I skin the other leg. But every time I climb a tree, I see a lot of things to see. Swallows, rooftops, and TV, and all the fields and farms there be, every time I climb a tree. Though climbing may be good for ants, it isn't awfully good for pants. But still, it's pretty good for me every time I climb a tree. Jabberwocky by Lewis Carroll. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome raths outgrabe. Beware the Jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the Jubjub bird, and shun the frumious Bandersnatch. He took his vorpal sword in hand, long time the manxome foe he sought. So rested he by the tum-tum tree, and stood a while in thought. And as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock with eyes of flame came whiffling through the tulgey wood, and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through, the vorpal blade went snicker-snack. He left it dead, and with its head he went galumphing back. And hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy. Oh, frabjous Callooh, Calais, he chortled in his joy. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome raths outgrabe. The Wind by Robert Louis Stevenson. I saw you toss the kites on high and blow the birds about the sky, and all around I heard you pass like ladies' skirts across the grass. O wind a-blowing all day long, O wind that sings so loud a song. I saw the different things you did, but always you yourself you hid. I felt you push, I heard you call, I could not see yourself at all. O wind a-blowing all day long, O wind that sings so loud a song. O you that are so strong and cold, O blower, are you young or old? Are you a beast of field and tree, or just a stronger child than me? O wind a-blowing all day long, O wind that sings so loud a song. The 6 Badgers by Robert Graves. As I was a-hoeing in my lands, 6 badgers came up with white wands in their hands. They made a ring around me, and bowing they said, "Hurry home, Farmer George, for the table is spread. There's pie in the oven, there's beef on the plate. Hurry home, Farmer George, if you would not be late." So homeward I went, but could not understand why 6 fine dog badgers with white wands in hand should seek me out hoeing and bow in a ring, and all to inform me so common a thing. The Tale of Custard the Dragon by Ogden Nash. Belinda lived in a little white house with a little black kitten and a little gray mouse and a little yellow dog and a little red wagon and a really-o-truly-o little pet dragon. Now the name of the little black kitten was Ink, and the little gray mouse, she called her Blink, and the little yellow dog was sharp as mustard, but the dragon was a coward, and she called him Custard. Custard the dragon had big sharp teeth, and spikes on top of him and scales underneath, mouth like a fireplace, chimney for a nose, and really-o-truly-o daggers on his toes. Belinda was as brave as a barrel full of bears, and Ink and Blink chased lions down the stairs. Mustard was as brave as a tiger in a rage, but Custard cried for a nice safe cage. Belinda tickled him. She tickled him unmerciful. Ink, Blink, and Mustard, they rudely called him Percival. They all sat laughing in the little red wagon at the really-o-truly-o cowardly dragon. Belinda giggled till she shook the house, and Blink said "Week," which is giggling for a mouse. Ink and Mustard rudely asked his age, when Custard cried for a nice safe cage. Suddenly they heard a nasty sound, and Mustard growled, and they all looked around. "Meouch!" cried Ink, and "Ooh!" cried Belinda, for there was a pirate climbing in the window, pistol in his left hand, pistol in his right, and he held in his teeth a cutlass bright. His beard was black, one leg was wood. It was clear that pirate meant no good. Belinda paled, and she cried, "Help! Help!" and Mustard fled with a terrified yelp. Ink trickled down to the bottom of the household, and little mouse Blink strategically mouseholed. But up jumped Custard, snorting like an engine, clashed his tail like irons in a dungeon. With a clatter and a clank and a jangling squirm, he went at the pirate like a robin at a worm. The pirate gaped at Belinda's dragon, and gulped some grog from his pocket flagon. He fired 2 bullets, but they didn't hit, and Custard gobbled him, every bit. Belinda embraced him, Mustard licked him. No one mourned for his pirate victim. Ink and Blink in glee did gyrate around the dragon that ate the pirate. Belinda still lives in her little white house with her little black kitten and her little gray mouse, and her little yellow dog and her little red wagon, and her really-o-truly-o little pet dragon. Belinda is as brave as a barrel full of bears, and Ink and Blink chase lions down the stairs. Mustard is as brave as a tiger in a rage, but Custard keeps crying for a nice safe cage. Tartary by Walter de la Mare. If I were Lord of Tartary, myself and me alone, my bed should be of ivory, of beaten gold my throne, and in my court should peacocks flaunt, and in my forests tigers haunt, and in my pools great fishes slant their fins athwart the sun. If I were Lord of Tartary, trumpeters every day to all my meals should summon me, and in my courtyards bray, and in the evenings lamps should shine, yellow as honey, red as wine, while harp and flute and mandolin made music sweet and gay. If I were Lord of Tartary, I'd wear a robe of beads. White and gold and green they'd be, and small and thick as seeds. And ere should wane the morning star, I'd don my robe and scimitar, and zebras 7 should draw my car through Tartary's dark glades. Lord of fruits of Tartary, her rivers silver pale, Lord of the hills of Tartary, glen, thicket, wood, and dale. Her flashing stars, her scented breeze, her trembling lakes like foamless seas, her bird-delighting citron trees, in every purple vale. When Icicles Hang by the Wall, by William Shakespeare. When icicles hang by the wall, and Dick the shepherd blows his nail, and Tom bears logs into the hall, and milk comes frozen home in pail, when blood is nipped and ways be foul, then nightly sings the staring owl, to-whit, to-whoo, a merry note, while greasy Joan doth keel the pot. When all aloud the wind doth blow, and coughing drowns the parson's saw, and birds sit brooding in the snow, and Marion's nose looks red and raw. When roasted crabs hiss in the bowl, then nightly sings the staring owl, to-whit, to-whoo, a merry note, while greasy Joan doth keel the pot. Swan Song by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Swans sing before they die. 'Twere no bad thing should certain persons die before they sing. The Noise of Waters by James Joyce. All day I hear the noise of waters making moan. Sad as the sea-bird is when going forth alone, he hears the winds cry to the waters monotone. The grey winds, the cold winds are blowing where I go. I hear the noise of many waters far below. All day, all night I hear them flowing to and fro. Barbara Frietchie by John Greenleaf Whittier. Up from the meadows rich with corn, clear in the cool September morn, the clustered spires of Frederick stand green-walled by the hills of Maryland. Round about them the orchards sweep, apple and peach tree fruited deep. Fair is the garden of the Lord to the eyes of the famished rebel horde, on that pleasant morn of the early fall, when Lee marched over the mountain wall, over the mountains winding down, horse and foot into Fredericktown. 40 flags with their silver stars, 40 flags with their crimson bars, flapped in the morning wind. The son of noon looked down and saw not one. Up rose old Barbara Frietchie then, bowed with her 80 years and 10, bravest of all in Fredericktown. She took up the flag the men hauled down. In her attic window the staff she set to show that one heart was loyal yet. Up the street came the rebel tread, Stonewall Jackson riding ahead. Under his slouched hat left and right he glanced. The old flag met his sight. Halt! The dust-brown rank stood fast. Fire! Out blazed the rifle blast. It shivered the window, pane and sash. It rent the banner with seam and gash. Quick as it fell from the broken staff, Dame Barbara snatched the silken scarf. She leaned far out on the window-sill and shook it forth with a royal will. Shoot if you must this old grey head, but spare your country's flag, she said. A shade of sadness, a blush of shame over the face of the leader came. The nobler nature within him stirred to life at that woman's deed and word. Who touches a hair of yon grey head dies like a dog. March on, he said. All day long through Frederick Street sounded the tread of marching feet. All day long that free flag tossed over the heads of the rebel host. Ever its torn folds rose and fell on the loyal winds that loved it well. And through the hill gaps sunset light shone over it with a warm good night. Barbara Frietchie's work is o'er, and the rebel rides on his raids no more. Honor to her, and let a tear fall for her sake on Stonewall's bier. Over Barbara Fritchie's grave, flag of freedom and union wave. Peace and order and beauty, draw round thy symbol of light and law. And ever the stars above look down on thy stars below in Fredericktown. A Bird Came Down the Walk by Emily Dickinson. A bird came down the walk. He did not know I saw. He bit an angleworm in halves and ate the fellow raw. And then he drank a dew from a convenient grass, and then hopped sidewise to the wall to let a beetle pass. He glanced with rapid eyes that hurried all abroad. They looked like frightened beads, I thought. He stirred his velvet head like one in danger, cautious. I offered him a crumb, and he unrolled his feathers and rowed him softer home than oars divide the ocean, too silver for a seam, or butterflies off banks of noon leap, plashless, as they swim. The Village Blacksmith by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Under a spreading chestnut tree the village smithy stands. The smith, a mighty man is he with large and sinewy hands, and the muscles of his brawny arms are strong as iron bands. His hair is crisp and black and long. His face is like the tan. His brow is wet with honest sweat. He earns whate'er he can, and looks the whole world in the face, for he owes not any man. Week in, week out, from morn till night, you can hear his bellows blow. You can hear him swing his heavy sledge with measured beat and slow, like a sexton ringing the village bell when the evening sun is low. And children coming home from school look in at the open door. They love to see the flaming forge and hear the bellows roar, and catch the burning sparks that fly like chaff from a threshing floor. He goes on Sunday to the church and sits among his boys. He hears the parson pray and preach. He hears his daughter's voice singing in the village choir, and it makes his heart rejoice. It sounds to him like her mother's voice singing in paradise. He needs must think of her once more, how in the grave she lies, and with his hard, rough hand he wipes a tear out of his eyes. Toiling, rejoicing, sorrowing, onward through life he goes. Each morning sees some task begin. Each evening sees its close. Something attempted, something done, has earned a night's repose. Thanks, thanks to thee, my worthy friend, for the lesson thou hast taught. Thus at the flaming forge of life our fortunes must be wrought. Thus on its sounding anvil shaped each burning deed and thought. Spring by William Blake. Sound the flute, now it's mute, birds delight day and night, nightingale in the dale, lark in sky merrily, merrily, merrily to welcome in the year. Little boy full of joy, little girl, sweet and small, cock doth crow, so do you. Merry voice, infant noise, merrily, merrily to welcome in the year. Little lamb, here I am. Come and lick my white neck. Let me pull your soft wool. Let me kiss your soft face. Merrily, merrily, we welcome in the year. The Tiger by William Blake. Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? In what distant deeps or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes? On what wings dare he aspire? What the hand dare seize the fire? And what shoulder and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? And when thy heart began to beat, what dread hand and what dread feet? What the hammer? What the chain? In what furnace was thy brain? What the anvil? What dread grasp dare its deadly terrors clasp? When the stars threw down their spears and watered heaven with their tears, did he smile his work to see? Did he who made the lamb make thee? Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye dare frame thy fearful symmetry? Spanish Johnny by Willa Cather. The old West, the old time, the old wind singing through the red, red grass 1,000 miles, and Spanish Johnny, you, he'd sit behind the water ditch when all his herd was in, never mind a child, but sing to his mandolin. The big stars, the blue night, the moon-enchanted lane, the olive man who never spoke, but sang the songs of Spain. His speech with men was wicked talk, to hear it was a sin, but those were golden things he said to his mandolin. The gold songs, the gold stars, the world so golden then, and the hand so tender to a child, had killed so many men. He died a hard death long ago before the road came in. The night before he swung, he sang to his mandolin. Be Like the Bird by Victor Hugo. Be like the bird who, halting in his flight on limb too slight, feels it give way beneath him, yet sings, knowing he hath wings. This is your host, Kathryn Lopez Luker. Thank you for joining us for this poetic interlude of Stories Come to Life. Be sure to join us next time when we begin another book. You can find a link to our podcast on the Marshall Public Library webpage, www.marshallpl.org. I'll talk to you again soon.